lost control.
Oh, yeah.
Oh, you
already.
haven't seen anything yet. You haven't seen anything
I'm
yet.
sweating.
We never even had control. What do you mean we
I
lost
don't know
it?
what I
Before we
was
start,
thinking.
one thing.
Yeah.
Remember, you asked for this.
I know I did. Yeah. We thought, who better, you know?
boy.
Who better than,
Yeah.
than these two yahoos? So,
Mr. Rothberg is wearing bumblebee cotton ball
Killer bee,
headband.
yeah, killer bee,
Killer
yeah, killer
bee.
bee.
Killer bee.
And some sort of
His ego's
tuxedo
so-
T-shirt.
Yeah, my
His
tuxedo.
ego's so big, isn't it? Killer bee.
My formal
What?
T-shirt.
And Spriggs has a plastic arrow right
No, it's
through
broken
his.
Wow, just discount my whole head. Here. You go in there elaborately, talk about his.
Well, he brought all the costumes.
His
So-
code name is Broken Arrow. So.
gotcha. Good. Just as we're going along, just kind of introduce yourselves. Can you just give us what you do at AY and kind of a little bit of background as far as your history is concerned?
Well, Dan, thanks for having us. I really appreciate it.
Dan.
Michael Rothberg. I'm a territory manager, Eastern Pennsylvania, all of New Jersey, Metro New York, Long Island, and if things go okay, I'll be here 13 years come Wednesday.
What about before that?
Before that, I grew up in a plumbing supply house. My father had a plumbing supply house in the city of Philadelphia, so I have a big plumbing background. And I was on the road before I got here. I've been on the road for 26 years, I think. I did some advanced math calculations last night.
Wow, that is.
So I've repped for 3 different rep firms before I fell into this job.
Okay.
You know.
Spriggsy?
Mike Spriggs, Florida Territory. I don't even know what that is. I'm 18 or whatever, but basically everything but the Panhandle in Florida. Actually, I retired from the City of Columbus Division of Water. I had 31 years with the utility running various jobs through there. Pretty much did most of everything for a little while, but I ended running the distribution shop. Then AY had wanted to start a training truck, and I was judging the tapping competitions for AWWA, and Mike Gradeville, which was our rep in Ohio, introduced me to Scott Knapp, and it started the whole ball as far as me coming over and having a second career with AY McDonald. So I did the training truck for about 3 years. And then I got tired of my boss. He was just a pain in the rear, and happened to be Doug. And so I got lucky. Rob Cavallera said that he's leaving AY, and he was in Florida, that was my destination to move to Florida for my someday retirement. And so I put my name in the hat and luckily got the job. So I've been doing Rothberg's job for about 2 years. A little bit better.
For
but
Rothberg?
just
Up in
like
Pennsylvania?
No,
too?
for me. Oh, yeah. I can't do it, please.
well, that's why I took the job. Rob said, "You want to do it?" I thought, "I've never been a salesman in my life, but if Rothberg can do it,
Absolutely.
sign me up."
So there's two things I want to point out in the room. Number one is the necklace. Do you have a name for the necklace?
Yeah, matter of fact, Dan, I do, yes.
Why does he keep calling me Dan?
I'm sorry, Don. Call me Brassmaster R.
Brassmaster
Brassmaster
R.
R for Brassmaster Rothberg.
Okay.
Brassmaster R.
Gotcha.
So that's my necklace name now. This is a travel necklace. It's a little bit lighter.
Yeah.
But I go with heavyweight stuff, And
You go to customers with that on.
well, no, I don't.
Okay.
Katie, I do not. Katie, no, I'm sorry, Katie, but it's an internal thing. It's an internal little secret.
right.
I'm gonna move on to the second one, and Kelly, maybe you can explain what the bobblehead in the middle of the room is.
Little bobble Spriggs here. Yeah, so when somebody submits an idea and it goes into production, they can earn money. The company pays incentives, but you also can become part of our bobble squad. Just the jealousy
I know.
on Rothberg's
Oh,
face right
he
now.
wants one so bad.
He does.
So I usually find out what their hobby is. So clearly, Spriggs likes to ride motorcycles. So we immortalized him in this little bobblehead here, and that sits in the Innovation Center.
And what was the product that you suggested? Do you remember?
Yeah, the
you want to tell us?
chamfer tool. No,
Okay.
I don't want to tell you.
Yeah.
Chamfer tool. We redesigned it so you can do it hot.
Good.
It had a little pinhole in there before.
Yeah.
So
You're about the same size, Rothberg, as the bobblehead, so it works.
Understood.
So, Mark, no, no, I'm just kidding. So, just as far as the industry is concerned, what have you seen the biggest changes happening in the industry in the last 10 years, and what do you see as far as kind of changing?
Biggest thing that's hit my territory, and all territories are different. A lot of things are different between his and mine. In my area, there's a whole big push now to get the lead out of the system. And lead remediation is going to be huge when it happens and when funding comes. And that's going to drive the Northeast big time on that. We have new construction, but not to the scale of, where Lucky over here does.
Yeah.
But, it's for us, digging up and renewing mains is the biggest thing, and that's what we see. And some of my biggest customers, they're really into that. So,
What about you?
That's a tough thing to answer. I mean, one of the big things is that just like the training truck when it came about, is that they are trying to drill down to end users. I mean, like manufacturers like AY McDonald and saying, hey, how can we do this better, faster? And so before it was shut up and get back down there in the hole and do it. And people are listening, and then that's bringing on new products like the Innovation Center's done. So that I think is probably the most exciting thing about that. But the reality is right now, the whole industry is struggling. I mean, you have nobody's infrastructure's in great shape.
Right.
And even like lead, back in Columbus, we were 15, 20 years ago, we were taking out, if you were doing a short side service and you saw the long side service had lead, you would replace the whole thing. We were taking out lead a long time ago. There was still some lead in there. So that's just the age of the infrastructure, like our most downtown areas is crazy. So it's just a thing that's just, it just needs to continually be addressed. People put more money into the infrastructure, but it's almost an endless fight to do that.
to add to what Mark just said, in New York City, basically for 2 years in New York City, they've cut off all work. There is no work being done in New York City because of budget. Last year, a customer ordered 1,000 1-inch flare mail adapters. And I said to him, I thought there's no work going on. He said, it's all emergency work. I'm like, 1,000? He said, do you have any idea how many emergencies there are in New York City every day? And stuff may not be an emergency, but they're calling it an emergency
Right.
anyway. But there's that much work in spite of there being no work going on.
Is it most of the stuff there in New York City lead?
They have an extraordinary amount of lead. I can tell you Newark, New Jersey, just last year replaced about 20,000 services.
Sorry, New York, New Jersey.
Yeah.
For intel, calling the EPA. There's a lot of
Oh, they know about it.
Yeah.
Well, before Bumblebee interrupted me, let me
Yeah.
finish my thought on that. Right now, like the resin issues and pipe, it's just been one of those that unless you're one of the big manufacturers or contractors, you're having trouble getting pipe, and it's starting to get to the developers now. So there's going to be an issue there. I mean, with the delay on getting products all across the board in the waterworks is probably the biggest impact we're fighting now.
Yeah.
And with the last, the storm that went through Texas and stopped some of the resin plants, and that it just right now there's no end in sight, and we will struggle as an industry with the product on. And again, they don't need corpse if you don't have the C900 to put on the ground.
Right.
Yeah, we had an innovation summit last week, and there were definitely some very different issues across different territories or regions, but the supply issue came up, and that obviously is really hurting people right now. So it was interesting to see at different parts of the country, even having those people in the same room, their interactions with each other, like, you do that how? Just not having to even deal with certain things like cold weather, that changes how people do things, and it was interesting.
Definitely can relate, because when they run out of pipe, when there's no pipe, work stops.
Yeah.
And all starts at the pipe.
Yeah.
And, I've gotten into it with customers about, where's your stuff? I'm like, well, if you don't have pipe, don't bother me. And then the customer sometimes quiets down, so.
So you're saying you have enough right now?
Right now, the big guys have pipe. Yes, sir. Yes.
They do?
The big guys do have pipe. Yes, sir.
Yeah, it's just on the cusp. I mean, it's hard to get, and the price. I mean, everybody's had 1-2 price increases, but
Yeah.
you're talking an ungodly price increase on pipe.
Yeah, you couldn't have come into sales at a worse time. Before, you were the trainer just riding around in the training truck. Well, now you're in sales where you have to have those conversations about supply issues in a different way that before you didn't have to do that.
I miss the training truck.
Yeah, I'm sure. Nobody yells at the trainer
Yeah.
for where's my
My
stuff.
boss, every third month, he'd call and say, hey, did you change your oil in the truck? I'd say, yes, got it, boss. And, nope, that's it. And
Yep.
you go on my way. That was the hardest thing I had to do.
Yeah. Yeah. If they don't hear anything, that means it's good news.
Yeah,
Absolutely.
Yeah.
good news is good news.
So, it was interesting in your area. Kelly's talking about the people who have lead in the ground. Some people were saying they leave it there. Others were saying they got to take it out. How about in your area? Do they have to take that
So
out?
in our area, depending on what state, I'm in a state of confusion, but if you're digging and you find lead, you cannot hook up a new service to an existing lead line.
Right.
And one of the larger private water companies, they were doing a job outside of Philadelphia, and they were digging up. They laid new 8-inch ductile iron in the main, and then they come in to do the hookups. And they went to do the hookups, and they were all lead. They backfilled, paved it over, and when they get rate relief from the state, they get money to replace the lead line. They will then tear the lead out and hook up, but they cannot hook up the lead line to the new service. So there's a brand new main there with nothing happening.
But they'll only take the lead out if they get that rate relief.
Correct.
So when they do replace the lead, one of the guys said they split it and leave it in the ground, run the new line, and then another guy said we can't even leave it in the ground. We have to pull
Right.
it out.
I can tell you, Kim, that in Newark, New Jersey, they pull the lead out, and I've been to the job and watched the guy do it. They just attach it looks like one of those Chinese fingers,
Yeah.
and they attach it to the lead line, attach it to the hoe, and the guy just starts pulling and drags it out. And there are piles of lead pipe there. It's unbelievable. And I said to the guy, how many foundation walls you break? He's like, mm-hmm. But and these guys are absolute machines.
Right.
They just work, and I think every crew was doing, I think they expected 10 services a day out of them. And they had 5 crews working this one particular company.
Holy cow.
It was unbelievable. And then they have to get a plumber, the guy with a plumbing license to do the work inside the house to go into the meter. Now, after the meter, whatever's there is not their problem. And
Right.
some houses in Newark have lead inside that house, but that's not on them.
That's
Right.
up to the homeowner, right?
Correct, yes.
So do they have to recycle the lead lines in a certain way, or what do they? Do you
I
know what
think
they do
they're
with
scrapping it somehow, yes. I think
Okay.
there's a value to the lead line. Even though it's lead, there is a value for something. I don't know if it's fish waste or whatever. I mean, maybe for the food in Florida, I'm not sure if they're doing additive. But they're selling the lead. They had piles of lead there, and they're
Yeah,
scrapping it,
I
yes.
heard that. There's
Yeah.
certain ways to recycle it.
You'll find any federal law is going to have a law, and then each jurisdiction is going to take it. And each state, like in Ohio, you had the EPA governed, the Ohio EPA governed things. So like even backflow, you'd have some places, one section of Ohio would be enforced strictly, then another maybe not as strict, and then you get different people in there, and it would switch. So that's the same thing with the lead, whether it's backflow lead. You got local jurisdictions maybe not enforcing it as much, others enforcing it to the nth degree, maybe more stringent than the federal law, and that's why you get all the different ones. But the federal law driving it all is usually the same. It's just that by the time it gets down to each area, local area, it's looked at different.
Yeah.
And then and it's like in Columbus, we were always really progressive on that stuff. So we would maybe be more stringent than what even we were required.
Mm-hmm.
Where you get into some other parts of the country, and it's not in the north, that you would basically they would be 30 years behind where we were.
Yeah.
Just because it wasn't being enforced.
So you talk about the federal law and things along those lines, and you hear the infrastructure bill. You hear that. It seems like you hear about it every 6-7 years, whatever. Have you guys started getting any indication from your customers as far as what they're hearing out there, as far as if it's going to actually come to fruition, or what their thoughts are on that whole thing?
I'm one of those guys that don't dig into details on that kind of stuff.
Yeah.
Like I said before, that really the infrastructure is a hot topic.
Yeah.
Now, what they do at a federal level, I don't have any faith that anything's going to ever happen, to be honest with you.
Right.
So I'm not that guy that asks what your thought is on something that I think nobody really knows how it's going to play out.
Sure.
But I don't think anybody disagrees. Like I said, in Columbus, we have 100-year-old cast iron mains all through there with valves that haven't been operated forever. We had a big blowout on a 24-inch and had to go back like 13 valves to back up to shut that off. But what do you do? Downtown?
Yeah.
At some point, that dam's going to break.
Sure.
I know, Dom, in the state of New Jersey, the governor has put a mandate that in the next 10 years they will remove every lead service in the state will be replaced in the next 10 years, maybe with a 5-year extension. But those are all getting money from somewhere, whether it be the state, whether it be from the Port Authority, who has a ton of money in New Jersey. They say every lead line's coming out. In New York City, there is a guy there who ran a DEP, and his mandate was get every piece of lead out of New York City.
How many times have they mentioned that before, as far as in the next 10 years we'll do this, or is that a continuous thing, or is that something new?
It just came out. That was aside from Newark, because Newark was an absolute crisis. It became political. It absolutely became political. It was real quiet over the summer of 19, and then some politicians got involved, and they had conferences and people marching down the street in Newark.
Right.
And then once it came political, within less than 2 years, they replaced every single lead line.
Huh.
So it's, politically driven, but they all had rate relief. But the lead's coming out. The lead is going to come out in Jersey.
Interesting.
And just in my situation in Florida, we have a lot less lead issue
Yeah.
than you would find in the Northeast.
Yeah, just look at how we are in the Northeast. We got a ton of lead. I mean, I had a lead service growing up, and there's nothing wrong with me.
No.
So.
Clearly.
Nothing at all.
Oh my God!
I have no idea.
that should have the bill signed right now.
You should be on a billboard.
One of the things that one of the participants last week said at the summit was that a large percent of the people who are in the water industry are going to be retiring in the next 5 to 7 years. How's that going to change what you guys do, or kind of how you relate to customers, or what your expectations are as far as from those customers moving forward?
I think that trend's already happened. I mean, that statement was made 10 years ago,
Yeah.
and it's a true statement.
Yeah.
And you find each generation. I always joke the millennials. They're not going to be. They're not going to get down the hole and work quite as hard. But the truth is, my grandfather worked in a steel mill in Pittsburgh, and even though I feel that I'd been in the hole and worked, he probably looks at me like I was a chump. That I had it easy. So each generation's getting easier. So it is tough to get. People don't want to get down in the hole and do that. It's not an easy job at all. So they are struggling with it. But I do see, over the last 5 years, I do see a lot of new young generation coming in. But it is a struggle because it used to be you'd get in with a government agency, the guys are doing it, or even some of these good contractors, and you stay there, again, to retirement and all that. Now people are, like my son stuff. It's just like, to have a job for 2 years and jump to another
Right.
one's just sort of the way of life.
Right.
Money, it was like you get in with a good company, stay there. So it's tough to keep it, but it's starting to get a little bit younger. And our distributors, like the Four Line, they have seasoned people and a lot of new young kids coming in, and the dynamics are there. And I think everything's going to be fine. But always we're going to be looking in the water industry to recruit people, because it's not a sexy, glamorous career. People don't grow up thinking, I want to be in the water industry. But once you're in it, it's the greatest industry to be in.
Yeah.
It is the last monopoly. If you look at the water companies, it's the last monopoly you can have. They've broken up phone companies, internet companies, but if you want to get your water, if you want to get your water, where I live, you're getting your water from only one purveyor of water. That's it. And there definitely is a younger trend. And like Mike said, the younger trend tends to turn over. But my key guys, they start out reading water meters and just work their way up. And there's a lot of knowledge these guys have. They know what is on every block of every street in their area.
Yeah.
And when that walks out the door, it is a problem in some areas. It absolutely is.
Yeah, at the summit, one of the biggest things that came up was they want to see things like QR codes on every product, so somebody could just scan the code and have like a how-to video, or just knowing that everybody does everything on their phones nowadays. How do you start adapting the stuff we do to that younger generation?
Yeah, the younger generation doesn't know this from this, so it is a problem. Yeah. What is this?
I was going to ask what that was myself, and then how you compare that to your knitting that you do on the side. Did you make Rothberg some socks or a sweater with
I
that?
had to look at his shoes. I'm like, did he take his shoelaces off? What is happening?
I almost did, Katie, but I found something.
Chip doesn't allow us to go anywhere with no shoelaces. We have to have our socks and shoelaces.
They're afraid
That
we'll
can't be
hang
that.
ourselves if we have shoelaces. That's the problem. So.
So you mentioned your son. So we've talked about work and your job. So tell us each of you a little bit about your personal life, your family.
My wife and I have been together just over 34 years now, and we have 2 great kids. Daughter, she's 26 now, just had a baby, so. Started
Grandpa,
late, so
Grandpa
I'm a
Spriggs.
I've been in the gym. I'm still hanging on, working out in the gym. So all my lifting partners through the years have been younger. So I've been called Grandpa for probably 30 years. So people say, "Hell, the feel to be called." I thought, I'm glad I earned the title finally.
Yeah.
And so, and his name Rocco Michael. Better than I remember when I had Kelsey. I did camp counseling in the summers. I thought I knew what it was to really care for a kid. And when Kelsey first came out, I was like, holy crap, this is the next level. Well, Rocco, I said, I think I had that same rush, but over almost 30 years, I've just gotten softer and more of a punk. So it's almost even more overwhelming. So that's great. So, and she met her husband. I couldn't have scripted out a guy that would be any better. In fact, if something ever happened, I'm probably going to take his side over hers. I like him that much. So they're doing great. Moved over near us in the Wesley Chapel area, so get to see them all the time. My son got out of the Marines, and he's living out in the Keys right now, which is good. My one brother's out there, so I get to see him quite a bit, and he's doing great. He's just he's not the guy that's going to get married at 21 and have grandkids right away. But heck, when he was living in Tampa for a while, we were lifting partners, rode the bikes, the tailgate, and all that. So I mean, I couldn't be any more blessed, and so
That's
I
awesome.
love the name Rocco.
That's
Yeah.
great.
I
That's
love
awesome.
the name Rocco.
Nobody
So
puts
cool.
Rocco in a school locker. Like,
I know.
Rocco,
Yeah.
like-
Kelsey always wanted a unique name. And the thing is, on unique names, when you get in there and say, hey, I'll name my kid Kelsey, and then 5 years,
Yeah.
10 years later, there's 10,000
Right.
Kelseys in the class.
He'll
We
be
thought it
the
was
Rocco,
unique.
right.
Yeah.
He'll be the Rocco.
Rocco's been in the Italian. My mom's full Italian, and my grandfather's name was Rocco.
Oh,
so in the Italian, Rocco's been around forever.
Sure.
But it's not one of those things that's going to catch, and you're going to have 20 kids in the school named Rocco. So it ended up being perfect. And her husband, they were undetermined on the name, and they said, "Well, wait till he's here." And he didn't cry when he got it. He got a shot, didn't cry. So actually, that's when Zach said, "Hey, we're going to name him
He's
Rocco."
tough.
If you get a granddaughter, will you name her Stucco or?
Is Rocco short for anything?
Can you hear anything? I have something.
We
in
turned
this
his
ear's
mic off like
Yeah.
a half hour ago.
I'm getting an echo sound.
Yeah. You'd mentioned something, and because I knew one of you worked out, and then you mentioned going to the gym, so I wasn't sure which one it was. So I guess that was you who goes to the gym and works out. I wason't sure.
Well, he brings me. I went down to the gym. I didn't see him there.
Did he bring you water and towel?
His only exercise is carrying in boxes from the porch. That's it. That's enough. That's more than what I do in the gym anymore.
All right, Michael, tell us about your.
Okay, so I've been married, and it's like one of those odd numbers I got to subtract for. So I've been married for over 35 years, and I have 2 kids, one of each. Yeah.
I get you.
My son Kevin, he does something with healthcare, with healthcare benefits, and my daughter works for a doctor's office. So they're both kind of, they're both like doctors, but not really. They're in the medical field, but
Yeah.
It's,
How about stuff for as far as what you do on the side and for enjoyment?
Motorcycle, I always rode that, and my brothers have it, my son has it, and stuff. So I lost when I moved out of Ohio. I lost a lot of riding buddies and some beautiful areas to ride. Florida's a little bit different. I mean, son and I, we went up to the Keys, and that's a nice ride, but it's not like being here with
Yeah.
winding roads and stuff. But there are some areas in Florida that are winding. You got to go north, so we get together and ride. Still hanging into the gym just to try to defy a little bit of my aging. Has nothing to do with the old days where I went in there because I loved it and
Right.
wanted to see if I could outdo personal records.
Sure.
So I'm hanging into doing that. In Florida, there isn't a week that goes by that there's not 1 or 2 events. I mean, it's almost unhealthy, especially when you're a weak individual like me. I said, I'm going to take some time off, and then all of a sudden on Friday you get a call, oh, yeah, I'll do that. It's nonstop. It's brutal. So, but there's just going out different events.
Cool. You mentioned, as far as people getting into the industry, and then you said, but it's the greatest industry. What makes it the greatest industry?
Well, first of all, I mean, it took a while. I mean, a lot of years in the industry, I never thought of it. But when you come down to it, it is the number one resource for people to survive and live.
Yeah.
And people are turning a knob and getting water and drinking something that they have to drink, 8 cups a day to even be, living on this planet. And they take that for granted on what all happens for that water to get there. It's absolutely amazing. So to be a part of something that is the number one life-sustaining thing should be something everybody should be proud of. And then 2 is it's such a niche. It's something different. Like it's not like, if I'm selling cars, I could probably go sell steak knives. And if I sell steak knives, I could do a mattress or whatever. It's all the same.
steak leaf mattress.
Yeah, that might be your next job after this interview. So don't downgrade. But
13 years of goodwill down the drain.
sales is sales in that. But in the water industry, I mean, all the little things to understand that the infrastructure where you got, there's probably people will still have wood pipe in the ground. and to understand that, to know the hydraulics, the water quality, everything, it's just incredible. So once you have that knowledge, it's a really good niche. Now, the bad side of that is once you've gotten deep enough in the water industry to jump out and go to another industry would be you'd have to start over somewhere else. So it almost sucks you into a little vortex to stay in your whole career.
Yeah.
But to me, it worked out perfect.
Yeah.
There are really some good people in this industry. There are really some incredibly good people, and you see the same people year after year. And it's the same people. Maybe they move around, but there are some really class acts in this industry. There really are. Absolutely.
I mean, the people are probably because it is. I fit in with blue collar people. That's just the way I was raised and all that. And it's just even the people that are upscale, like the Rothberg here.
Yeah.
Even them have a little blue collar.
Yeah.
It's just a good people. I mean, you always have some people that you don't really hang around and stuff, but for the most part, it's just a great industry and great people. So
Yeah.
I don't know why. And again, the value of this industry, it's never going to go away.
Yeah.
I mean, you have job security. It's not something that's going to evolve incredible like at Blockbusters, where they had to evolve because no one's going to go rent videos anymore. Yeah, you don't remember. You're too young. You don't remember that, but they were around. This industry here, it's going to continually change, but it's the same industry forever. You're going to find a water resource, treat it to a certain standard, and then get it through a distribution and keep that water quality.
Yeah, and I think even in sales, my background was in healthcare IT, and everything was what's the next tech. And the risk to upgrading or changing was minimal. But in our industry, for someone to make a change, sometimes the risks are very heavy. So there's a lot of obstacles there. And, obviously we take great care in what we put out there, knowing that you can't just make a quick change. That's their reputation on the line. It's communities at stake. So I think that part of the industry is pretty interesting too.
Yeah,
It's still a pretty slow-moving industry as far as for change.
exactly.
But the key thing is, like Mike said, you can live without electricity. You can. You can live without cable TV. Go 2 days without water and watch what happens.
Yeah.
It's happened where, I've seen it in Jersey where something gets shut down and the police are called in to restore order at Walmart because of people trying to buy water.
Yeah.
It's unbelievable when you get down to it.
Sure.
Yeah, we talked about how there was such a focus on certain essential workers over like the last year and a half, but there is an essential worker that was totally overlooked in my opinion, which is in the waterworks industry.
those
We
guys-
just take a hot shower, we get a
Yeah.
glass of water, we have no clue. And I think if we can start teaching that at like kids, if kids had any idea
Right.
what that really meant, I think that will be huge.
During COVID, our guys were in there every day. Our guys were in there every day in the storerooms, dispatching. They were there every single day.
And back in the old days, we used to have some PR people that go to the schools, and you'd have kids do tours and stuff like that to try to really make people aware of the water industry. Even if we weren't recruiting them to come join, at least they
Right.
had an understanding of everything going on. But the problem is like everything in the world, you start doing more with less, and then all of a sudden there's liabilities to have a bunch of kids going around a water plant, and that sort of got all phased out as we're starting to survive, and that's a shame because I think the kids need to understand that. Just even like on water conservation. If you don't understand all the money and time and effort to turn it in, and you just let that faucet run like it's nothing. I just have a conscious. I'm not saying I'm one of those that worry about water conservation totally, but to have a little conscious mind about it.
There's a perception. It just falls from the sky. It's water. It's free. It
Yeah.
doesn't cost you anything.
Yeah.
It's there. There's that perception. It's prevalent.
I was driving into work today, and I heard where Mike Rowe, who did the Dirty Jobs thing, he's doing a new one. And this isn't what it's called, but it's basically about essential jobs. And he's talking about water and how people don't understand what it's all about. And he's going to do some specials on what it all takes to get water from point A to point B, and just kind of try to make a little bit more awareness. So he's coming out with that. So I'm interested in seeing that.
Yeah.
I mean, you look at it just like we'd have. Our water tanks with 2 million gallons of water up in there, and that people just walk up and see a tank and that and don't realize that you got to pump 2 million gallons of water in there. It is just the hydraulics of getting that water from point A to point B is just
You got
amazing.
to treat it. It's the whole thing. It's not free. Everything's involved with that, and you have to test it every day. It's just
Yeah.
yeah.
And I give kudos to their guys out in the plant. I mean, when people were saying, "Hey, you don't have to come to work," these guys had to come to work, or else there was no option. It was
Right.
they are truly essential workers. There's no doubt about that.
Definitely.
As far
So
as-
much happens behind the scenes that people
Yeah.
just don't
Yeah,
understand.
and I'm sure that's true in a lot of industries.
Yeah.
But
Yep.
the water, I mean, like I said, people that are outside just don't understand, and it's impressive.
Well, Mike and Matt, we appreciate you. No, seriously, Mike and Mike, we appreciate you guys taking some time out to kind of give us a little bit of insight as far as your thoughts on the industry and that sort of thing. And if you have any ideas or suggestions for podcasts in the future, feel free to email us at ayafterhours@aymcdonald.com and follow our socials. I nailed it.
Okay,
How
so
many times?
usually-
How many times have you had to yell at them to say that? Thank
Can't
you.
believe that
did it.
just
I
happened.
know. I wrote it down.
Wow.
Yeah.
Usually it's like, screws up
Nailed
a couple
it.
times and then you can just see the
In
sweat.
the first take, you rolled right
I know.
into it.
Yeah.
Right into it.
That was
I'm a
fantastic.
You are.
Yep. Maybe we just need to do these more at the beginning of the week and not the end of the week.
Yeah.
Thank you guys
Oh,
for
thank
sitting
you.
down with us.
No, it was our pleasure.
No problem, Kathy.
I got.
I'm gonna need 2 name
I'll
tags at
have
the
a
sales
headache
meeting
from the
this week.
pressure of that arrow on my temple.
You can't want